Anyway, everybody please welcome George Sanders.
Yeah. Amen. Thanks. I just like college football when I get a chance to watch it. Wow. Thank you guys for having me. I'm always humbled at the opportunity to be able to stand and present and share some thoughts and hopefully plant some seeds or some ideas that can fertilize and turn into opportunities for sustainable growth. Brief introduction of myself. I'm a former sustainability officer for the University of Texas in Houston. While there, I served on the President's Council for Sustainable Development under the Clinton administration, where I met Ray Anderson, who recently passed, who was the founder, CEO of Interface, and he recruited me to come to work for Interface, and I've been there ever since. So I'm one of those fortunate people that have served in the capacity of sustainability throughout all of my working career. So I feel blessed to be here. Husband of one wife, father of 4 children, 2 teenage daughters, and a set of twins that are 11, so I'm frustrated all the time. Before I get started on this presentation, which I'm a walker and talker, so I want to thank Greg and Emily and Chris and Susie, who's been combating with GBCI to try to get this presentation approved, and Lisa Spritz. So thank you guys for always being supportive and always thinking so highly of me. One of the things that you'll find out about me is I'm very laid back, but I'm very energetic. So I'm going to share a few things with you in these particular presentation slides, and then I'm going to share some motivational, or what I think are motivational thoughts about what I think the future of sustainability is. And I want to commend this group. I know you've already given them a round of applause, but it does my heart good to see students actively engaged. So let's give the students another round of applause. All right. I think that all of us who have been a part of sustainability and kind of kept up with what's going on with the USGBC and other organizations that are affiliated with sustainability kind of know that there are news articles all the time. You see media about global climate change and sustainability and indoor air quality, built environment. I think the humorous thing to me is that I remember in 1993 or 94 where all these articles were about sick building syndrome and poor indoor air quality and asbestos movement. And I think a lot of times people forget about this transition that has happened so fast. It got really dangerous when you start seeing every Fortune 500 company begin to start having articles in magazines around sustainability. Here's the thing that's really scary. In 2007, there were 2 Fortune 500 companies that had the word sustainability on their website. Now all 1,500. Fortune 1,500 companies have the word sustainability on their website. Out of the Fortune 500, over 80% have somebody on their staff that's focused on sustainability. And of that 80%, 30% report directly to the CEO. So the transition has moved. The proof of whether or not it's really viable or needed, I think it's kind of shifted to a place where we know that it's viable and needed. There's the old model of sustainability, which is kind of that doom and gloom, deforestation, water toxicity, air toxicity, landfill. I'm going to date myself. Anybody remember the old commercial with the Native American and EPA commercial saying, do no harm to my country? Yeah. That's kind of this model. It's kind of like, oh, wow, we're going to go into hell in a handbasket, if we don't do something quick. So the new model of sustainability is about positive visions for the future, sustainability as a business opportunity, and there are really no compromises. There are systems conditions that you need to work between in order to understand how sustainability functions, but they're almost like attractive. Magazines talking about healthy living. And, students are making decisions about which colleges they go to as to whether or not it's got a healthy building on the campus, or whether or not they have a sustainability program, or whether or not they have team building type of exercise around sustainability. That wasn't a big decision for us. You know, I think the biggest transition has been about the me attitude in the group that I grew up with in the 80s and 90s. It was all about how do I get this and get the microfilm and microfiche. This was before internet, y'all. And how do I get my resources? How do I pass the test? How do how am I going to get recruited? Now, when I go to colleges now, it's more team. Like, we're going to graduate on time. We're going to finish as a class. We're going to complete that project. It's a total different mindset. And when they get out in the workforce, it's the same thing. Here's what's scary. So if there was nothing on sustainability in Fortune 500 companies in 2007, and now in 2011 it's everywhere, who did the training for that? There weren't any college classes to prepare folks. There was not a roadmap to get people prepared. It just kind of happened. There was a transition. People knew about environmentalism. They kind of got into the wagon, and then we kind of dumbed our way through it. That's what's scary to me, is that when you find out the right things, people begin to find the right resources. The internet kind of helped, and information became available. So this was the perception of green buildings. You know, that old grass hut. You know, I was telling the people at Interface when they recruited me, it's kind of like, you know, you're going to be responsible for sustainability. I was like, if it means I got to change my dress code, y'all got the wrong guy. I am not wearing hair shirts and saggy khakis. That ain't gonna happen. You know, I'm sorry. So this was the perception. It was like this old hair tile, just really, really freaky looking building. But this is the reality. Attractive, increasing worker productivity. The scary thing about this is that people come to work earlier and stay later. Students, like when they built buildings a long time ago, no offense to anybody, I'm not pointing at any contractors or designers, nobody stood up and said, you know what, I'm gonna put asbestos on the ceiling, lead paint on the desk and on the walls so I can lower kids' test scores. Who does that? Asbestos was the only way they knew to have a fire retardant. It wasn't about critical thinking techniques to assess impacts of entire product life cycle. Discussing life cycle assessment and how it illustrates environmental impacts of a product. And developing a list of comprehensive questions to ask manufacturers about their products. Every product has an environmental footprint. Everything that comes in and out. You got water, shipping, forest, packaging, use, cleaning, landfill, greenhouse gas emissions. All of those are related to products. Here's the life cycle of a product. You can put anything in this space. You got
The
some raw
broadcast
materials.
is now starting.
They get pulled
Attendees
from the
will
earth's
listen
crust and
only
taken from
mode.
somewhere. Then you've got a manufacturing process, what we used to call heat, beat, and treat. You know, that's just what it is. It takes whatever those raw materials are and makes it into whatever it is that you request as a consumer. Now, by the way, as a consumer, you've made this process more difficult because you want something to last a long time. So that means that it's got to be more intense in terms of its manufacturing process. Then there's whatever the product is, pocketbook, coat, jacket, sunglasses, whatever you want to put in that space. Then it's got to be its use and its maintenance. While you have it, it's got to be maintained and used appropriately. And then it's the end of life. It either goes to a landfill or it gets recycled. That's the process. All manufacturing has the same process. And then there's transportation all along the way. And I always ask this question, it's kind of cradle to grave process. In the life cycle of a greener product, you would eliminate taking things from the earth's crust. And you would eliminate things going to the landfill. So what does life cycle assessment use as a tool? It evaluates environmental impacts associated with the entire product life cycle. So a scientific framework that measures impacts like global warming, ozone depletion, toxicity in human ecosystems and embodied energy, and also resource depletion. So measurement of global warming impact. Now when you look at this life cycle assessment, I usually get the same answer for those of you who haven't seen this slide. Where do you think the most greenhouse gas impacts are? I knew somebody was going to say that. Transportation. Greenhouse gas is in the raw material extraction. And it's the most unregulated. Think about it. They just go in the Earth's crust. They got to dig till they get what they need. Pull, cut. It's the most unregulated. Least watched. That's where most of the greenhouse gas emissions are. Think about the machinery that's used to go and get that stuff. It's not that clean. So there are products that are coming out looking at life cycle assessment, measuring the full impacts of the materials that are used in that process, looking at the impacts and the materials that are going to be used in terms of delivering those materials, looking at a full cyclical system of bringing that product back and using it over and over again. Here's a really interesting one. Company that I will remain nameless was looking at the impact of embodied energy in a chair just based on raw materials. Virgin aluminum, very intensive. Versus recycled aluminum. Huge difference. Huge difference. Embodied energy went from 870 kilowatts per hour to 260. Just making that decision alone. But if you never ask that question, they never make that decision. Cost versus price. Where do we get information about this stuff? There's all kinds of resources. Buildinggreen.com, Environmental Building News, Bees as an LCA tool. You can look at different types of environmental performances on different types of LCA products. Overall performances when comparing 3 or 4 different products. You can create your own, get a series of metrics to look at as you begin to measure your tools. So you can have a more robust tool to evaluate. So if you want to use general stuff, LCA, multi-standard, single attribute, weight it how you want to, but the resources are all there. Then there are other resources that are available to you. So we rely on LEED for recycled content, low VOCs, and regional material right now. That's what we rely on them on in terms of products. So here are future LEED considerations, according to George Bandy. Performance and durability. It is not sustainable if it does not stay where it's supposed to stay and perform like it's supposed to perform. Reuse, recycling opportunities at the end of life. Not just the sourcing, but actually the returning of the materials. There should be some type of reward for that. Sustainable product certification that's clear, open, honest, candid. Everybody's playing by the same set of rules. Not so many of those logos. Impacts on global warming. How are we looking at reducing greenhouse gas emissions? That's important. Corporate commitments to sustainability. Not just that they're making a commitment by selling you a product, but that they're making a commitment as a company to also reduce its footprint around sustainability. Efficiency in manufacturing, water, emissions, waste, renewable energy, ISO certifications that are clear across the board. So your goal is 0. Neutral environmental footprint. In the meantime, we're just aiming for less bad. That's all people are asking for. Just aim for less bad. There is not a single source that will tell you that the product is totally sustainable. Quit looking for a one-stop solution. It's not going to happen. You must become an educated consumer. Ideally, information, third-party verification, and apples-to-apple comparison of products. Use life cycle thinking. Rely on standards and certifications to guide your decisions. And then your project goals and personal beliefs also drive your selection in terms of the materials that you use. So think more broadly about green. Look at the product, the company, philosophy, its commitment, its manufacturing process. Does your company's vision, mission statement include sustainability? Discuss your company's annual report. Is it a footnote or is it a key business strategy? Has your company joined partnerships, NGOs, governmental agencies to help reduce its footprint? And does your company have LEED certified buildings itself? So sometimes you got to change your perspective. Put on a different set of glasses. And Janine Benyus in her book Biomimicry begins to talk about that by saying we need to use nature as our mentor and our guide around making decisions, because what we see in nature works. Otherwise, it would have been recalled by its manufacturer. So here's what nature does really well. It runs on sunlight, uses only the energy that it needs, fits form to function, recycles everything, rewards cooperation, banks on diversity, and demands local expertise, curbs excesses from within, and taps the power of its limits. Now, if you took these 10 things and said you wanted to build a space, and you built a space that met those 10 criteria, it would be a pretty sustainable space. And that's what nature does really well. So how do we learn from nature on how we build spaces and develop products? So biomimicry has levels: mimicking form, mimicking process, and mimicking ecosystems. Anybody remember Michael Phelps? This was before he got on the bone. Because he hadn't won a swimming meet since. Oh, I forgot we were on that other microphone. I'm sorry. Products inspired by biomimicry. You know, they created these swimsuits that had a shark skin-like film on the inside that prevented drag. And if you remember those Olympics, we broke more records than we had broken in the last 10 years in swimming meets. By looking to nature for design, clues, understandings, materials that mimic wheat floors, looking at films that keep a glass from shattering. The old glass, when you used to wreck your car, the glass, now they look at shells to see how when a shell cracks, it doesn't fall apart. There's a film inside of all automobiles now that mimic that keep the glass from coming in on you. When your glass shatters, holds it intact. All these materials that are made to mimic new radios that mimic lobster shells, hammers that look like woodpeckers. It's almost like you're looking to nature to help you design. Nature's been doing it right for a long time. And we need to begin to lean on them for help in understanding some things. Barefoot runners who inspire shoes. They even got some now with all the toes in them. Y'all remember when all shoes were flat? I'm dating myself now, huh? The Pro-Keds, Chuck Taylors, they were all flat. And then the next thing you know, they had heels on them. Well, that didn't just happen. They went out and looked at a goat's feet, and people started doing what they call off-road or off-track running. And so they began to raise the heel up like a goat's heel is and soften up the center so you can have something to support the middle of your foot, and putting something on the front of the toe so when you kick something, it didn't tear your foot up. All mimicking nature. Even adhesives. A gecko can suspend itself upside down so you can't get it off the ceiling late at night when you're chasing it around and go on those vacations and you kind of got this thing in your room and wake up scared. But it can suspend 5 times its body weight upside down with just little small suction cups. Clams that connect themselves together naturally without resources that just pass by in the water. They just gather things and connect themselves naturally. What can we learn from that in the way we design our products? Like a lotus leaf, paints that have the film like a lotus leaf, it cleans itself so you don't have to pressure wash your home or your building. Almost scary, just thinking about designs that change the way we do things. This is probably my favorite. Anybody know that a termite nest in the middle, as big as it is, it's only like 35% that stays occupied. In the middle, it stays 72 degrees. It can be 150 degrees outside, or it can be -5 outside. It stays 72 degrees in the middle all year round because of the way it's ventilated. As tall as it is, those are ventilation systems that allows the air to come in, cool or heat itself, get to where it needs to go, and then exit out. Well, they've built buildings in Zimbabwe with no HVAC systems. I'm sorry, my friend from Train. Now, the challenge with that is that you lose some flooring space because you need more space to ventilate the facility. I think the guy's name is Anthony Pierce, is the architect who designed that. But it's just really amazing to see some of the things that you can learn from nature in the way that you design things. So as I get ready to close, there's a couple things I want to try to share with you. Is this mic on? No?
Yes.
Is that on? Okay. Thank you. As a child, probably the most frustrating question to parents has always been why. You know, when you got your kids, why? 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 And you just kind of, because I said so. But that's like the most frustrating question to a parent. I think as adults, I found that the most frustrating question to me has been how, as it relates to the green building movement. And I've asked myself over the last 12 or 13 years, and I ask you, how would a living planet, the rarest and most precious thing in the universe, lose its biosphere? Essentially, its livability. We take it for granted, and we don't want to believe that losing it is even possible. But I think about it, and you know, if Earth someday in the distant future had lost its livability, its biosphere, its ability to reproduce, it would have happened insidiously. We wouldn't even been able to see it happen. It would happen one silted or polluted stream at a time, one collapsing fish stock at a time, one dying coral reef at a time, 1 ton of eroded topsoil at a time, one disrupted animal migration at a time, one butchered tree at a time, one lost habitat at a time, one leaching landfill at a time, one belching smokestack of a manufacturing facility at a time, one toxic release at a time, one oil spill at a time, one breath of foul air at a time, 1/10 of degree of global warming at a time, one new disease at a time. That is how it would happen. And we know that it is happening already, just that way. So many different ways. You can make your own list, just as long without any duplication from mine. It is a long, slippery slope, and we're on it. We are losing one strand of the web of life, time, inexorably. And it will not stop until either we, the Homo sapiens, come to our senses, or we too are gone and can do no more damage. If we do come to our senses in time, then that will happen one changed mind at a time. This room is not the audience that needs that message, but it is the room that needs to carry that message. This journey is not about buildings. It's not AIA versus IIDA. It's not Green Globes versus USGBC. It's not chapters versus national, although that's a good debate. It's not about adversaries. It's about changed minds about life and health, about people and children, about our planet. Don't allow your areas of specialization or your competitive positioning or your grasp of environmental intellectual fortitude to forget that you are only a part of this bigger movement. But this movement is about you. You are the people that will get us up this mountain. And I really wish I could thank you in 1,000 tongues. The children of the future are asking you to make a different decision and impact other people. There are children from multiple countries. In Chinese, they say an Odia. In Scandinavia, they would say Taxamika. In Hebrew, they'd say Yada. Greek, they'd say Chatters. German, they'd say Dunkishan. Portuguese, they'd say Obrigada. In Russia, they'd say Spasiba. In France, they'd say Merci beaucoup. In Egypt, they'd say Mehotep. In Mexico, they'd say Muchas gracias. But me, being who I am and where I'm from, I just want to say thank you for your vision, for your effort, for your commitment, and for your work. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, George. Thanks for the presentation. If you could stick around Network for a little bit, check out our sponsors in the back, and hopefully we will see everybody on Thursday at our 6th.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Very well done.
Thank you.